Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters, as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, talk all about the home teams. We'll go heavy into the draft and the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk about the changes up at LSU, new AD, Will Wade. We'll also get into the New Orleans Pelicans and the changes there as well. Great panel for you as always. Gus Kattengell from ESPN 100.3 FM here in New Orleans. Also, David Grubb of CrestySports.com are our guest tonight. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us. We always start off letting folks know a little bit about what's going on with your professional lives. And Gus, what's happening over at ESPN?
What is it they're not to talk about right now? No, it's fun, man. It's obviously great. Obviously, we know it's draft weekend, so you have that. The Pels moving forward, has been fun, to be honest with you. And now the countdown, as Dave and I were just talking before the show started, to May 14th, lottery night. Who would have thought that we would be that excited about the lottery, but we are. So, ton to talk about. Obviously, LSU Baseball going to their final month of the season. Big injury news on their front to sort of see how that goes. And then, obviously, hard to believe, guys, but at the end of May, you got OTAs. Yeah. So it's right around the corner.
And, of course, this is probably the busiest weekend for people that are covering sports here in this town with the Zurich Classic and also the draft. And normally, you would think you'd have an NBA playoff series, but not this year. David, welcome back. Tell the folks about CrestySports.com and everything you're involved in.
Well, we're so involved in everything from high school to the pros. So right now, heavy on high school baseball. And of course, right now, your high school's also starting to release their spring football schedules. So we'll be getting ready for that as well. And then Pelicans has been, of course, where I am all the time. Got a lot of folks covering the draft. So if there's something you're looking for, we probably have it. And that's the great thing about working for that site.
It is. It's a great site, folks. I say it every week when we have a CrestySports.com member on. And it's one of the go-to sites I go to on a daily basis. You got to check it out. Guys, we'll start off with the draft. The Saints have the 62nd pick in the draft. It is a second-round pick. They don't pick in the third or fourth round. They come back in the fifth. They have 2 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th. Of course, last year's first-round pick went for Davenport. The third-round pick went for Teddy Bridgewater. The fourth-round pick for Eli Apple. So you're not left with a lot of draft fodder here for the Saints. But nevertheless, it is draft night. The first round will start on at 7 o'clock this evening. Guys, the big debate has been, will they stay put? Will they move? How much capital do they have? Will they rob next year's draft picks to be able to try to target a player? I think one of the more interesting comments I've heard throughout the last few weeks of the draft is from David Jeremiah, who said that the way they've graded out the first rounders at this point is 1 through 17 bona fide first round picks. 17 to about 60, all kind of bunched into a group, and probably it got second round grades on them. Saints just outside of that at 62. We know players fall all the time. Teams fall in love with players that may have others may have a grade on them for a second round, and ultimately they may reach for them in the first round. Gus, what do you think happens tonight as far as the Saints in the first round, and do you think they will be aggressive this weekend going forward?
Guys, that's the thing. In their history, they've been aggressive.
Yes.
I mean, they always tend to move. I want to say I heard this week. Other than the Browns, the Saints have the best history of moving in the first round one way or another. And I just go back to, when they brought in Jeff Ireland, and he talked about the Senior Bowl after his first year. He said, dude, my first draft night was ridiculous. They wanted to trade every single pick. Every single time we were on the clock, they wanted to move up, and I had to calm everybody down,
right.
Which is a good thing while you bring in other eyes.
That's why Jeff Ireland needs to be there.
That's the point. They're aggressive. So there's two things to me that I try to look at and I guess hope for common sense from this aspect of it. New England's been good and has had sustained success because, yes, they build picks, they stay there, but they also pick and use those picks knowing that while you're stacked and loaded in our playoff team, you never know what happens, right? Players want to leave, get new big contracts, there's injuries and such. The Saints have a playoff roster. We all agree on that. Okay, so these draft picks are going to have to try to make the team for starters. So you do need the depth, I think, in a lot of the areas, and then it's just price and cost. You brought it up. Do you want to risk future picks? And what's the worth and the cost for it? If you want to go with the flag got us, well, then you should be close. So you don't need to make bold moves. Teams that are making bold moves, trading up, doing that, they need to get into the postseason. If you believe you're a postseason team, I think you be patient. You see what you can do. If you want to move up into second, fine. You want to move into the third and fourth using your fifth, the 2 6s and 2 7s, go play golf the weekend, I got no problem with that. Moving into the first, like you're saying, Eric, to get a bona fide player, you're looking 15 to 10, 10 to 5. We're talking next year's first, second, third of players at Andres Pete. You start doing all of that. Then you ask for what and for who and where is he going and where's the starter. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Breathe, relax, remind yourself of your playoff team, see what's available.
I don't think they'll move into the first round, but I do think they will be aggressive with the rest of their picks. And Dave, one of the reasons why is if you look at last year, and if you want to look at that as a precursor to what we're looking at going forward, that roster was so stacked. The draft choices that they cut, they couldn't make it to the practice squad. They were snapped up immediately by other teams. Literally, almost every player, with the exception of maybe Rick Leonard, who was the fourth-round bust they had last year, was picked up at the final cut. And again, that shows a great roster. Those players, most of them stayed on rosters throughout the season. So where is there room on the final 53 for seventh-round picks, sixth-round picks, or again, a fifth-round pick on this team?
Well, I think there is, because the first thing you want to do is you look at the landscape of the NFC. The Rams are not better. I don't think that they're going to be better this season. Jared Goff is still a question mark. Todd Gurley is now a question mark. So I think that the Saints, you look at your other competitors, the Philadelphia Eagles. Carson Wentz, still a question mark. You have the most consistent team coming back from last year. Minnesota, question marks. Washington, question marks. Dallas, question marks. Up and down the conference, everybody has a huge question mark in one place or another, except for the New Orleans Saints. So what you're looking for is if I'm in the second round, I want to walk away with an offensive lineman. And then at the rest of my picks, however they get used, using that New England example, I'm looking for versatility. Can I find a corner who can also play safety? Can I find a linebacker who can also maybe play a rush end in those types of situations? Can I find a tight end who can also play a receiver? Those are the types of things I think they're looking at later in the draft because you need versatility and you need it cheaply on a team that has a lot of high-priced players, and you're still going to be looking in that secondary market once the preseason cuts come through for veterans maybe who can help you out.
Yeah. Aggressive, patient, how will they be in this draft?
I'd be patient. Like I said, there's nothing to reach for them. There's not a desperate need. They have issues where you want to shore up, but there's not a desperate need here. And because of where they are in this draft, and because of the position they could be in next season, with Breeze possibly being off the books, having a new starter at quarterback, and still needing to address some positions on offense, especially along that line, yeah, you don't want to go into next year's draft and not have picks and to be able to restock the cupboard. Yeah,
I agree. Guys, let's talk about needs. I think a lot of us discussed on our shows, obviously and written about it as well. To me, defensive tackle, wide receiver, tight end, and you got to get the better on that offensive line. Both you guys have talked about big men tonight, and I think that's what you got to look at, especially at the second round pick. If they stay put, a defensive tackle, offensive lineman, whether it be a guard or a tackle or a swing guy, or maybe a center. Yeah, as you mentioned, Andres Pete in his last year of his deal, $9 million cap hit this year. I'm surprised that they didn't try to make a move in terms of extending him. I thought maybe he might be trade bait, but when Unger retired, you really don't want to really mess up the continuity of that line by having 2 players now that'll be brand new on that line with Nick Easton coming in. He could play the guard position if you went and got a center, but you probably want to stand pat with what you have right now just for the consistency. And again, you're trying to win a Super Bowl with Drew Brees. Your thoughts on which direction do they go? What do you think the needs are in this draft? If there are quote-unquote needs for this team.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone could, I think, have added depth. And you look at need, I think they did a great job in free agency. Smartly spending and then just bringing in nice players. When you look at Brown and you look at Edwards, I think you beefed up that D-line. Look, obviously they feel, judging by their moves, trying to go get Robert Quinn, that they need depth on that right defensive end. Okay. I'm assuming you're probably going to extend Cameron Jordan, so he's going to be around a little bit. But again, Trey Hendricks, I mean, you need some depth probably there, but it just screams offensive line. It just honestly does. I know it's not sexy, and I know it's not what people are going to want to go do, but you go back a couple years ago and they did Ryan Ramczyk, and everyone's like, you didn't get Reuben Foster? And you see how that turned out. But you mentioned Pete. They may still trade him. You don't know. I mean, if they do it this weekend or not. But that's a great point. Do you want to continue to mess with what worked? Because, look, we can all start going into, and fans are fans. They called your show. I'm sure they tweet at you too and call when you host. It's like, get the receiver. Guys, Drew Brees went from 2.7, 2.9 in that Rams game to about 1.7, 1.9 come the postseason. The offensive line cut almost in half the time he had to throw the football. Right. So we want to go after receivers and all that. It's fine. Look, if you find one that you like at 62, go for it. I've seen some great mock drafts with some really nice players. The Ohio State receiver, great. But it doesn't matter who you got back there if that O-line is hurt. I love Teron Armstead. I saw a video of him, Thursday of him working out, and he looks great. He looks healthy. Awesome. He still needs to go an entire season. I mean, it hasn't happened yet.
He's fragile.
Andres Pete, regardless of his last year, he is nicked up, as well. And you mentioned who's the center. So, man, I'm sitting there, if I am at 62 or even if I do need to move up, I look. And if there's a guy on the offensive line, David, where he's within the ballpark, 1 or 2 numbers, I don't know what the grade is, 86, 87, and the best player available is 88, 89, I might go O-line. Left tackle, left guard, if there's a guard tackle or guard center. To his point, versatility.
Swing.
Sean Payton loves guys that play 2 positions.
Yep.
So, and especially in this case, you can do that. You kind of help yourself on that because, guys, we can look at every other skill position, David. If they don't have an offensive line, it's not going to matter.
And we've seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it with this team.
We saw them go down during the season, as Gus mentioned. As soon as they got injured, everybody blamed it on the receivers, but I think you got to go back, and if you look at it technically, it was the offensive line. I mean, the inability to protect Brees and give him time to be able to go through his progression.
Particularly in the Rams game.
Right.
I mean, the reason that there are picks, that a pick happens is because Brees is under duress.
Yes.
And we saw that Rams pass rush get neutralized by other teams at certain times. And then also, I think the line is even further of an emphasis this year because you don't have Mark Ingram.
Yeah.
That's your power back.
That's true.
So now you're relying more on Alvin Kamara. You've got to give him some time to make that one cut. And if those guys can't hold their blocks at the point of attack or make a surge, especially, then the Saints, if you can take them down to one dimension and you can make Brees throw 40 times a game, your odds of beating the Saints go up dramatically. So that line, to me, you have to constantly be refreshing it with good bodies. And like I said, you have a lot of guys with injury histories, and you've got a guy who may be a veteran at center, but he's not a veteran with this team.
Right.
So I think that is always your number one concern with this team.
The other thing too, guys, is you never want to say that you're looking at other teams and what they're doing, but you have to. I mean, I do. And again, take mock drafts for they want. But it makes 100% sense for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to draft Devin White if he's available there, right? That guy scares the bejesus out of me. Believe me, look, I played the Ricky Williams scenario this week. I'm like, if you went full Ricky Williams, give me the one guy you love. And I would absolutely go get that. He's a Jonathan Vilma, quarterback of your defense, guy that can stop the run, rush the passer, cover the middle where a lot of these teams are trying to run, screens and just crossing routes, which the Rams do to death. Okay, so let's say they get him, all right? You're seeing the Falcons trying to move up to go get somebody. I saw one report could be quarterback. They just gave Noodle Arm, Matt Ryan, a big contract. So is it a defensive end, pass rusher? Is it something? So you look at that. Tampa has built their line. If your division is building in that area, it screams offensive line.
So you guys both agree, big men.
Got it.
Got it. Offense, defensive line. What about the wide receiver position? Again, they tried to go the veteran route. The slot receivers were really out of their market in terms of what they could pay. Last year they were so desperate they bring in a Des Bryant, and we know how that ended up turning out. I got to believe it's got to be on their radar, but I think you're in the same position that you saw last year with Traquan Smith. Traquan Smith looked great in the first part of the season. Film being the great equalizer. Teams start to get a little bit of book on him. He hits that rookie wall. He's not effective down the stretch. I think that wide receiver might be something they look at, but I think that's also something that maybe you look at, as you mentioned, secondary market. Teams are going to cut veterans after this draft, and again, the Saints would maybe, looking for a veteran wide receiver. To me, it is a need. I just don't know if you do that in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints have had success getting receivers late. I mean, arguably now the second best receiver in franchise history was a 7th round pick.
Right.
But receiver is one of those positions too that reaching for receivers early doesn't frequently pay off.
Right.
The Saints were lucky with Michael Thomas, but there are a lot of receivers who go in the first round who never pan out. So I think a lot of this will have to do with the timing, getting these guys reps with Breeze, and continuing to develop that chemistry. When you can do that, I mean, the Saints again last year had stops and starts with the way the offense worked. Didn't have Mark Ingram at the start of the season. That changes things. You go through Ted Ginn's injury. That changes things. So if they can get health and they can have that production of the guys who are the stars, then it allows times for those secondary guys to develop.
Guys, I don't think signing a Jared Cook precludes them from going after a tight end, though. You look at the strength of this draft right now, offensive line, defensive line, especially defensive tackle on the inside. Tight end is deep as well. Right. So I would think that as you get into those later picks, if they keep those picks, or maybe try to package those picks to get into the 4th round or maybe into the 3rd round, they may be looking at a tight end.
Yeah, you brought him up, and I think that's the thing that's interesting. You look at Jared Cook's addition, and again, not my words, Sean Payton at the owners' meetings, guys. I see him opposite of Michael Thomas. He just told you he's the 2nd top pass catcher that they're planning on doing. Just told you. Will help open up the middle. Will help Alvin Kamara and screens or things that nature. Just run. Open up the crossing right underneath for Michael Thomas or whoever was going to be the slot receiver and things of that nature. Will help open up Traquan Smith. Look, the guy's shot. He's got skills. He's got ability. The more he'll know the playbook and the more things help him, I think he'll be fine. You mentioned, Drew Brees mentions it all the time, time on task. Keith Kirkwood, that dude didn't even know he was going to play. I mean, he stepped in, made a catch or two a game, but they were big. They were in a 3rd down. He showed that he could take hits and do that. Now he's had an entire offseason knowing, dude, I can play A. B, I'm going to get the opportunity to do that. And he's sitting here doing the same thing we're doing. Hey, nothing's set in stone other than Michael Thomas. Right. So I got a spot. I can go out there and do it. Look, Cameron Meredith, some people have run into him at Target or things like that and told me, hey, how you doing? I'm great. I'm ready to go. Let's see what happens. You went and paid him.
Well, you took the pay cut.
Exactly. So I'm not of that position, and I haven't been for weeks of this, I need a receiver. I'm like, you have some. That tight end was signed for a reason. Again, not my words, but if the free agency people are sitting there saying he is the best pass-catching tight end, all right, well, you just added him. So develop your receivers. You've got Curtis Johnson. You've seen what you've been able to do. They're young. To David's point, they don't cost much. So I want Traquan Smith and Kirkwood to work, and Cameron Meredith took, a pay cut. So you're fine there. Plus Ted's there. Plus you don't know who else you can wind up getting. So it's not, I don't look at it like that needs to be 62. You need to move up to go. I don't see, there's other needs to me.
Right, and as far as the tight end goes, it's a deep enough draft for tight ends that, again, if you wanted to get back in the 3rd round, if you wanted to get in the 4th round, you're going to get a quality player. Look, I know a lot of us liked Irv Smith, the kid from Brother Martin, even though he went to Alabama. Again, he's going to be too pricey. He's going to be end of the 1st round, early 2nd. A lot of people, again, LSU fans like Foster Moreau, kid out of Jesuit. I like him as well. I think he's a perfect fit for the Saints because he can block, number one. He can catch the football, and he's going to be a middle-round pick, and I think there's some upside there. again, I think it's and you got a guy in Jared Cook now who's your main guy who's 31 years old.
Right.
So you're going to have to be grooming someone. Is Dan Arnold the answer there? Probably not. So again, I would not surprise me to see them go tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I really like Foster Moreau. I think no one at LSU's Pro Day and at the Combine helped themselves more than Foster Moreau. His time in the 40 was faster than people thought. I mean, it was low 4.5s for a tight end, which is great. So, I mean, and then he great hands, great leader in the locker room, and as you said, physical, can block in the running game and in the passing game, and is willing to take on whatever role you want. And again, we talk about guys with their versatility. He could play special teams.
Yes.
He would be willing to play special teams. And then to have that kind of leadership that he brought to the LSU locker room, having watched him all 4 years, just an amazing young man. So if you could get him locally, I think he'd be a fan favorite instantly. But his performance, I think, would warrant that spot.
Dave, Gus mentioned Devin White. There's this big scenario, as it always happens on draft day, where guys start to fall. A lot of scuttlebutt out there about Greedy Williams maybe falling. And it amazes me, if you watch Greedy Williams play at LSU, in the limited time he played there, he can play in the NFL as a corner, a long corner. You can argue he's not the greatest tackler. That can be developed over time. I'm just surprised at all this talk out there that maybe Greedy falls. If he falls into the middle of the first round, the end of the first round, somebody's getting a steal.
I don't think he's going to fall that far. I think it's smoke. Because honestly, I don't think he falls past Detroit. They're in desperate need of secondary help. They've been getting burned for years. They have one good corner in Darius Slay. I don't think he goes any further than that. A lot of times you start hearing this. It's the same thing with the young man, the quarterback, Ohio State. We were just talking about his name is Haskins. People have been down talking him for the last week.
Right.
And how do you down talk a kid who threw for 4,000 yards and 50 touchdowns? But I think it's posturing by GMs who are trying to get guys to fall back to where they are. So I really don't believe Greedy Williams has done anything to devalue himself. And like you said, he's a kid that as he gets older can make that transition to free safety. Yeah. And I think that's one of those things that you look long term. Great corner, great ball skills. That's perfect as a free safety as he gets older.
Your thoughts on Greedy?
Yeah, I think same thing like that. I just go back. It reminds me almost in a similar manner to Darius Geis last year.
There you go.
I just sat there and I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, again, and I wasn't there every single weekend. I wasn't there every single day around him, but guy's always smiling. What do you mean he has an attitude problem? I mean, guy looks like he loves to play football.
I mean, he was a consummate team player.
I don't know where that came from, but look, this is the season of this information. I mean, this is what it is because teams want him to fall, and then he'll be the first one to go, he's great. Great locker room guy, character, he plays hard.
We couldn't believe we got the value.
Exactly. So, look, it is what it is, and I guess that's the hardest thing for today's athletes to understand that that's what they're trying to do,
You brought it up. Mickey Loomis said it, and it is the season of misinformation and lies. As I mentioned on the radio show today, they need to have a priest following them all over because you need confession what's going on over there. Trading a veteran off this team for a possible young player in the draft. You think that happens?
Again, what's the trade-off? Is it a position of depth? Is it a starter? And if it is, where? I think David, kind of nailed it at the very beginning of our conversation when he went through the NFC, and I didn't really think about it like that. If you're already ahead in the game before they 3 days in of weightlifting. They just started their off-season conditioning, and you're already ahead in the game there. Look, it's why I said when I saw that schedule, it's easy. I'll see against Houston. I'm not playing anybody because the one thing that can derail the Saints is injuries. So I don't need anybody playing in preseason. No, I mean, that's where you are. But if I'm saying that means I believe this team can make a run. So if you're that deep, you brought it up. Do you want to tinker? What are you trying to get now? Does it make sense? So again, now, if I can use Pete, move up, get somebody that can help, get another pick, get in the third and fourth round and do that, maybe that makes sense. And you have guys targeted, but it has to make a lot of sense because now we talk about depth, right? I mean, if I'm starting to pull veterans away to use them, they need value. Somebody's got to want them for something. So they got to be good. So it's probably going to be a starter or a very key guy. And I just don't know if I want to start messing it around.
I'm with you.
Yeah, this is your push all the chips to the center of the table season. Yeah. They don't do it this year. Right. Because you should have got it 2 years ago. You should have got it last year.
Right.
For, let's not deal with the circumstances. But here you are, last year of your quarterback's contract. All your veterans are in place. You've gotten the pieces. Now you're just messing with the edges. I think unless, like you said, unless there's a true difference maker available to you, then there's no reason to try to make a reach for something that's already right there within your grasp.
You guys are pretty good at this, by the way. Here's another segue for you, right?
Sure.
Okay. Did you want to make a comment before?
Well, I was going to say, because I was going to ask, I'll ask y'all, based off of what he said, if you're going to go there and do a difference maker, where? Name me the position that you think it would be.
The only place I can think of is that linebacker.
Me too. That's what I'm saying. This is why I said Devin White, because that guy can sort of help do that. But that's my point. It's like you almost have to sit there and go, okay, where is my difference maker going to go? You made that move last year to try to find your difference maker in Davenport. I'm just trying. Where is your difference maker? That you need.
Here's the next question. It's out there. The rumors have been out there now for about a week. The Arizona Cardinals are trying to stockpile picks. The Patrick Peterson trade is out there again. As we know, Brian McFadden, his cousin, last year talked about he wanted to come to New Orleans. That's where he wanted to go. The Kansas City Chiefs seem to be very, very hot on Patrick Peterson. Again, they don't have a lot of draft capital now. They used a lot of that up for Frank Clark, which again they overpaid. I'll take you first, Dave. Do you think that Peyton may be enthralled enough with Patrick Peterson that he's willing to sacrifice his draft? He's willing to give up an Andres Pete for a Patrick Peterson?
I don't think for the money it makes sense. I just think that's a lot of money to invest in that position. And then you look at what would have to happen going forward. Are you building around Patrick Peterson? Because you're not. So whenever Drew Brees leaves, now you're starting the process of building a new team. And Patrick Peterson is going to be aging closer to 30 by that point. And he's going to be making a significant amount of money. Yes. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. Maybe 2 years ago or last year when you thought the Super Bowl was in grasp. But now that you can get there without him, he's not going to make that much of a difference for you. You need that line to create turnovers. You need your linebackers to get turnovers. Your secondary is going to get it if you're getting your rush up front. No need to invest that kind of money right now.
Bingo. I 100%. Last year, absolutely. Right. Sure.
Down the stretch?
That would have made a ton of sense. We cannot forget who's about to get paid.
Oh, yeah. The guy on the other side.
Okay. And
Marcus Lattimore.
Okay, it's already happened. Right. What? On the Madden cover, Alvin Kamara?
Right.
He's about to get paid.
Okay,
at some point, okay?
You got to decide. Long list of guys that
Lattimore.
Thomas is looking at
the Seattle Seahawks, right?
That's what I'm saying. So all of that, you're going to have to make a lot of those decisions to his point. Look, I love Patrick. Great, but you have to start making decisions like that. And who are you going to build around it? And look, it's the biggest question, too. It's crazy we're talking about a team that has the ability to go to the Super Bowl and do that and has this championship window. Aren't we all kind of in agreement that this may be Drew Brees' last year? We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So we're assuming
maybe second last year.
Could be Teddy. Right. There's a really nice quarterback class coming out next year. That's why, back to the beginning of the show, I can't risk future picks next year, my first, my second, third, because if we are going to say we're a playoff or championship caliber team, where are they picking next year? 30, 31, 32, right? So to move up to go get those type of players or your quarterback, you're going to need your draft capital. You're going to need your picks, which is why I think we all agree. You almost have to be patient. Look, trust your scouts. You've gotten pretty good. Trust your, what you've got in free agency, and you just roll with it and see what you can do. I don't know what's the future.
And if
you're building about Teddy, it's a different team, so I might need to build differently around.
The financial day of reckoning is coming too. All the kicking the can down the road, and you're going to have to start eventually. A rebuild is going to happen. You're not going to just flip and maintain 11-5, 12, and those seasons. At some point, you're going to have a bridge, and there's going to be a dip, and that's when you get that bad money off your books. So it's coming, and the Saints have to prepare for that. And trying to extend a run that is really, for all intents and purposes, going to be over, and to keep doing it with bad money, I think would just be a mistake.
Ziggy Ansah's out there. They kicked the tires on him early. Right. Supposedly, again, he still had issues with the shoulder, visiting the Baltimore Ravens. It's still a need for this team in terms of a rotation defensive end. You think they take another look?
Yeah, again, absolutely. And I think that's what the reports out there where they were waiting for sometime, I think in May or June or something, that he has another checkup,
Right.
and then it's back to the bidding price. But again, those moves make sense, right? It's why the Robert, they're trying to get depth out there. And look, let's be honest. Fair or unfair, we always talk about this, and he's so good at this too a lot of times. The money you make, the position you are, it comes with certain criticisms and how people view you.
True.
Marcus Davenport's a great guy. He's going to be viewed as the guy that cost 2 first-round picks. Flat. Period, end of story, right? And he has to produce. And I don't know if it's fair. I don't know what's the expectation level, 30 sacks, because fans are like, well, he needs to, okay, well, what do you need him to do?
The expectation is the next Cam Jordan.
Right, but that's what I'm getting
Right.
at. So if that's the case, then yeah, look, a Ziggy or something like that, he makes some moves like that. But you drafted the guy to be a dominant on the end.
Yep.
So
I mean, I like Ziggy. I think he's had multiple double-digit sack seasons. In a situational pass
Yes.
rusher to
Right.
take the wear and tear off, yeah, absolutely. Because again, we know you can never have enough pass rushers, and you can never keep your guys fresh
And
enough.
you've lost Okafor.
Yes,
right.
Yep. So no doubt. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. We'll talk LSU. We'll talk Pelicans. Tonight on our panel, David Grubb of CrescentCitySports.com, Gus Kattengell of ESPN 100.3. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll have a listen to our little spot from our underwriters, and we'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Gus Kattengell, along with David Grubb, are our guests tonight. Guys, let's talk LSU. Scott Woodard is named the athletic director at LSU after Joe Oliva is reassigned to the president's office to be in charge of donor relations, which is comical, considering the donors are the one that forced him out. Woodward, I said on the radio show, was the ultimate insider to me. A guy that has been part of the political landscape here in Louisiana, and also, again, part of LSU in terms of their athletic department. He seems to check all the boxes for what you want as an athletic director at LSU. Your thoughts? Now, he walks away from Texas A&M, but he gets a hefty payday. That came out today. I have great expectations for him, but again, he's got to balance this thing because remember, it was the boosters and those that have deep pockets that really pushed him into the position. Who does he answer to now?
That's a great question because college sports is something else right now.
Oh, yeah.
Who runs it?
Right. Well, money runs it.
Yeah, money runs it.
Money runs it.
I mean, it's incredible to me because, man, we talked about this on our show and just off the air. I mean, what was first? It comes out Oliva wanted to keep Wade. It was the people above them, and people like fire the school president. The school president does more than just athletics, right? I mean, did I miss something? It was like, did the school president become the AD? I mean, it's crazy. Fans want the school president fired because of handling of a basketball coach. Well, it
also goes back to Les Miles.
No, and I get it. I understand.
There's a lot there, but yes, because of athletics.
I get it, but it's just nuts because they've been. I mean, I want to remember, right? Didn't they tweet like at LSU everything, baseball, football, the first school ever or whatever to have
just about.
Yes, top 15 and everything. We're winning this, and the AD is get out of here. It's nuts. It's crazy, but it's still Louisiana. Yeah, I get it. We won. We're top 25. We don't like you. We don't like how you talk. We don't like who you are. You're a Northerner. Yeah, okay. Well, Skip Bertman went from the. It's fine. He's one of us. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's really. You said he checks the boxes. to succeed in this state, apparently, you need to make two people happy. People that have the money, which he does, and politicians.
Yes, no doubt.
When the guy sits there in his introductory press conference and says, James Carville's my guy, there you go. And secondly, we need to talk about sports gambling. I'm like, what? I'm like, but he's in tune. They knew that the vote passed 3-1. He's going to the full Senate. So there you go. You got a guy that's in tune with politics and a guy that's in tune with the people that hand over the checks.
Right. But it's always been like that since Huey Long.
Right.
Okay? I mean, come on. You've had the mixture of politics and sports. And that's one of the reasons why my radio show works, okay? Politics and sports. But still, the governor makes the call in a lot of cases. The governor saved Les Miles when he was about to get fired, Governor Bobby Jindal. So, yeah, it goes hand in hand. I think it's a good choice because he has the ability to deal with both. Now, again, the question is, what master do you serve?
And if I'm one of the coaches, now everything's changed.
Yes.
The entire dynamic of everything. Because Oliva really didn't get involved with a lot of the teams as far as that,
Right.
He sustained what they were doing, made sure they had the resources. But now, if you're Paul Maneri and you start to examine his record and you say, we haven't gotten to the World Series enough. We haven't won enough games. This was supposed to be one of the best LSU teams in a decade. And they haven't gotten close to their 20 wins yet. So, in the conference, if you're either basketball coach, because if you're Will Wade, this isn't over.
No, not
It's not over.
No,
and then
long shot. We'll get into that.
And then
as
Nikki
well.
Fargas is, she hasn't won.
Right.
So
she's the one that has to worry the most, I think. Right
Yeah.
now.
So and then if you're Ed Orgeron,
Right.
Yeah, you just got an extension, but you're not his guy.
Not his guy.
And all it takes is if you can keep winning 10. But like you said, he mentioned Bama in that press conference. So if he goes another 2 years and doesn't beat Bama, he gets John Coopered probably. Ohio State couldn't beat Michigan. Always in the top 5, couldn't beat Michigan. That'll be Orgeron's fate.
But to your point, I think you're right, though. But shouldn't that be the goal? I mean, look, I get it. Ed Orgeron's done great. Everyone's behind him. I'm behind him now. I was a Jimbo Fisher guy. He deserves everything that he gets, the raise and everything else. But you can win 10 games a year. Ultimately, you got to win more than 10 games a year. You've got to win the SEC West. You've got to win the Southeastern Conference, and you've got to win a national championship, at least be in the Final Four. You cannot continue to be a bridesmaid to Alabama. And Woodward coming here, that's got to be the signal to every one of these coaches that, again, there's got to be the next level that you need to step to, right? I mean, even though Ed Orgeron's done great, I'm sorry, at some point, if you're an LSU fan, you like it, but you got to say it's time for them to take the next step. Right now, he's doing what Les Miles did, pretty much. They're still much on the same plateau.
And kind of it's the same pattern because when Les Miles started, the personality was great. That was endearing. And then as the losses to Alabama mounted, it was, this is really corny. We're tired of your antics. Yeah. And I think it'll be the same with Orgeron. He's the down home, we love him guy. But if you don't beat Bama, then it's just another yak, man. And that's the way this state goes. Well, he's one of their own.
You're demanding championships. Yes. And at an institution like LSU, when you come to one of the blue bloods of college football, you should be demanding that.
I just laugh because you know what? How many other ADs, head coaches, fan bases? You can't let Bama. It hasn't worked. That's why I don't know. It's like when Miles was here, I would always say on our show, I'm like, I don't know what LSU fans want in terms of this nature. You're miserable. If you start the season and you're already looking for the November game, you're missing out on the rest of the season. You're upset. You're upset that you didn't beat SLU by 50. You won by 30. It's like you're missing out on life. Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, but I get it. But to your point,
you don't think Auburn is saying that?
Do you think Alabama?
Do you think Mississippi State's saying that?
Right.
Yes. Texas A&M is saying that. The SEC East is saying that. College football is saying that. They haven't been able to beat Saban. Right. You know why? Because nobody's been able. What he's doing is a joke. Like, it's once in a, forget generate. It just never happens. It won't.
Well, so Dabo Swinney beats him.
Okay.
Dabo Swinney beats him.
All right.
And again, that's what the folks at Texas A&M are thinking, why they went and got Jimbo Fisher. That's what the other teams in the Southeastern Conference, when you look at the cast of coaches now, that in the Southeastern Conference, some of the top coaches in the nation. No, I look at it this way. When Nick Saban leaves Alabama, are they going to sit back and say 10 games is enough? Are they going to sit back and say it's okay to be behind,
they didn't do it after
behind
Bear
LSU?
died.
Right. My point. So
I tell you what,
that
to
is
your point,
the expectation.
Whoever comes in after
Right.
Saban dies, don't even take that job.
Right.
I mean,
No, it's the
Will be
expectation.
fired
okay,
within a
it's
year
funny
or
you
two.
just brought that up. I'll ask you though. Do you go get Dabo?
If you're LSU,
LSU hasn't shown that kind of willingness to pay that money.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, if you're telling me Dabo
they just
has,
paid their athletic director $1 million a year.
okay, but if you tell me
But
Dabo
you got to pay
has,
Dabo 10, 12.
No, I know.
You what
There's
I
no
mean?
doubt.
But that's my point.
Right.
It's like if you're going to bring up him and what he's been able to do, it's been 10, 15 years. And again, I always go back to what was the Chick-fil-A game or the Peach Bowl where they beat LSU. And it was the first time the ACC beat an SEC team. And they celebrated like they had won the national championship. And I remember that. LSU was like, oh, okay, we'll play in this bowl game. But it did. It was the changing of the tide, and it started there. But you see what it takes. It's tough to do. It's hard to do in it, but I'm with you because that's what I've been asking this week. What are his goals? Like, what's the number one priority? And we're talking winning and I'm different. I think his number one thing he needs to do is actually the PMAG. You need to renovate that place.
Well, that's coming. $1.5 billion program.
Capital program.
To rebuild not just athletic facilities, but the campus facilities that have been crumbling for decades.
Yeah, but that needs to happen.
And that's one of the reasons why Woodward is there now, because he can raise money. He can reach out to these big donors who have now put him out there and said, he's our guy. He can go to the Richard Lipsky of the world who, again, are pushing for F. King Alexander to be out along with Oliva and have the capital behind them with the board of supervisors and a lot of these deep-pocketed donors to be able to maybe get that done. I would be not surprised if, again, by the time next football season starts, you have a new president of the university. Okay? You know, there's a lot of rumors out there. Jay Darden, who is not a educator at all, may be the president of the university before it's all said and done. Again, the political part of this. Let's talk about Will Wade, because I agree with both you guys. I don't think it's over. Again, I think what's going to happen in this trial will tell a lot what's going on. If there's going to be a continuation of an FBI investigation after what comes out in this particular trial. And I think we were all misled a little bit by the fact that Will Wade was called by the defense, because if you listen to the statements that were made by the attorney for Christian Dawkins, when he was trying to petition to have Sean Miller and also Will Wade testify in this trial up in New York, one of the things he wanted to do was, and he mentioned, these are two of the most corrupt coaches, and I'm paraphrasing here, in all of college basketball. He was looking to, as he said, pull the curtain back on the dirt in college basketball, how dirty college basketball is. So this wasn't going to be friendly fire. This was going to be made an example of. The question going forward is, if you're Will Wade, you've given up a $250,000 bonus. You've given up the opportunity to be able to get to hold on to your job. Level 1 or level 2 violations now, you can be dismissed with cause. He is on the hottest of hot seats, even though he's with LSU. You think he's on the bench next year?
I almost think you have to this standpoint of, I mean, what do you got to lose at this point if they haven't found anything, right? Look, at the end of the day, however they got him there, the guy can coach.
Oh, no doubt.
We talk hoops all the time. The guy could coach.
Absolutely.
And he grabbed everybody, could do it, and did that. What I found interesting is this week, you know, you're seeing all the excerpts and all, or you know, transcripts rather, or what the guys are saying. And before we came to do the show, I don't know if you guys saw it. Zion's in there, Duke's in there, Bagley Jr., all these other guys. So look, there's a reason the feds didn't want them. The feds stopped him from testifying.
Absolutely. The judge said that again. This is not a referendum on amateurism.
They don't want to do it.
The NCAA.
The NCAA doesn't want to do it. The feds don't want to do it. Yeah, they don't. No one wants to unveil that curtain. So, that said, I do think he comes back.
Yeah, I think they're stuck at this point. You called him back. You have to recruit. You have to have some team because, you know, honestly, if anybody thinks that all those guys left because they really believe they're going to get drafted,
thank you.
Right.
No, you're insane.
Dave, 233 underclassmen put their names into the draft. How many positions?
60.
60.
Yeah. 60. And if out of LSU, the only person that you'd say is a surefire first rounder is Nas Reed.
That's it.
Right.
And that's borderline because he's an inconsistent player. So you take the rest of those guys. They left for a reason. They know that that you get out before the posse comes.
That's right.
And I think that there is going to be something that happens. The feds told the NCAA, do not act until we've resolved this case. So I think the NCAA is holding on to a lot of things. It'll be mostly wrist slaps because, again, the NCAA does not want to have all the bones uncovered. But there will be some punishment. There may be a reduction in scholarships, things like that, banned from television or whatever for LSU. Something's coming. Now, does LSU want to continue to ride that out with him after this season? We'll see because, again, he's not the hire of Woodard.
Right.
So, but he's got this year because they don't really have a choice.
It's too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and look, you got a recruiting class you got to deal with. What's going to happen is whatever comes out, if something comes out in the trial at that point, then again, that may be the end. If there is an investigation by the FBI that comes up from any evidence in the trial, again, that could be something down the line here. But the part of this could take another year or two.
Yes.
Okay, that's the thing. It could take another year or two.
And look, and here's the other thing. Why I say you bring him back. We were just literally talking about it. Aside from maybe calling Shaq, who I'm probably thinking is the wealthiest LSU basketball alum that I can think of.
Right.
I mean, I know people love the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. Call it the Pete Maravich Court or whatever. But that building needs to be named Shaquille O'Neal. That's my first phone call because I need to build an arena. That thing is awful. Okay, you can redo it. But my point
blasphemy.
is, for
You
that
go
to
ahead.
happen,
Right.
for that to happen
Right.
though, I need support.
Right.
Right? Number one thing out of this entire ordeal is what? The fan base went bananas. They were Free Will Wade here.
But why?
Do you have
Why,
a Free
Gus?
Will Wade shirt?
No.
I mean, I saw purple and gold. I mean,
But why,
that's
Gus?
my point. But that's my point. They wanted Will Wade. So
Well,
if they're the ones that are
didn't
going to cut
want
the check,
another Nick Saban situation.
Right, well-
They didn't want a situation
Have him
where,
go
again,
somewhere else
Nick
and win.
Saban leaves,
Bingo.
he comes back, goes to Alabama, they're winning championships.
but that's
Will
my point.
Wade is fired, he comes back to the SEC,
Yep.
and all of a sudden, he's winning championships
Well, yeah.
with someone
Hey,
else.
But that's that LSU inferiority complex
doubt.
striking.
No
And
doubt.
that's the
But
one
they
thing.
saw Bruce Pearl do it this year, though.
Yeah.
and that's
Okay?
my point,
And
though.
it scared
So
the heck out of
the
them.
donors want him, the fans want him. You're trying to rebuild that place and everything. So guess what? Welcome back, my guy.
Right.
Let's go.
Well,
win.
well, at least for now.
For now.
But right,
like you said,
for
if
now.
something
Exactly
drastic
right.
comes along
For
and you
now.
can't avoid it.
Yeah.
But once you brought him back, once you said the suspension, you can't just throw him right back out again unless you have some call.
You made a
what
great.
was the Jeff LSU basketball had him doing?
Right.
I mean, seriously,
No.
think of that. The official Twitter page when he got back had him celebrating and doing the chopper. I'm like, wow. I'm like, it was just crazy.
You made a point.
Did I do that right, by the way?
233
I'm just-
underclassmen in the draft, 60 spots. Nas Reed is out of school, so he's not attending class. We understand Waters is still attending class. All these guys come back? Do they go to Europe? What happens? I mean, again, rats running from the ship here. Or again, do they understand? Even Marlon Taylor put his name in. Are you kidding me?
Javonte Smart ain't coming back. All right. Once they show up at your house and talk to your mom, he ain't coming back. Tremont Waters ain't coming back. Skylar Mays could come back. I think he could because I don't think he's going to get a high enough grade, and he doesn't seem to have any issues. He was part of the previous,
Yes.
he was under Johnny Jones when he came in, so he's not really tainted.
So
I
these
could see
guys
him
are going to the
back.
G League or to the international ball?
Yeah, I think they end up in the G. I think Waters ends up in the G League. I think Mays, I think Mays may come back, and I think, I just don't see what. Sometimes I just don't understand what these kids are thinking.
Right.
I understand the desire to go pro, but if you're not a starter on a team, and you can't even break into the starting rotation, you're not averaging double figures, you're not shooting 40%. And these guys are going pro, and I think a lot of it has so much more to do with the situation at LSU than their real prospects of becoming NBA players.
I thought when Wade came back, a lot of those guys would gravitate back. Again, there's still some uncertainty with Wade as well. So I think we'll see what happens. What's your thoughts before we go to the
let's
phone
see. I
lines?
mean, at the end of the day, he knows this, man. A European League contract, a G League contract, it's our salaries. I mean, it's not. Multi-millionaire
You can make some money in
type
China
stuff.
now.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
but
you
these
got to
are
go to
guys-
China.
again, these
Do
are
you want to go
lower-level
to
guys.
China?
Not me, but, I mean,
These
you
are
can make some
lower
money in
level
China.
guys.
Yeah.
These aren't the
Right.
top prospects
Sure.
who just missed the cut. They're not prospect number 61.
Right.
Some of these guys, I mean, they don't appear on any list.
Anything. I
Agreed.
can't find.
It's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
draft
right.
board. So they may, Philippines, something like that. Israel League, those are places.
Is there a Philly?
Yeah, there's a
Yeah, there is.
Philippines.
No, there is.
All right, I
Absolutely.
trusted you.
No, it's true. Guys, let's go to the phone lines. Toby is in Gretna. Toby, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Toby.
Hey, Eric. I'm serious when I say this. I hope Sean Payton is nowhere around for the draft because I think that he made a pick on Rick Leonard, and so I don't want him nowhere around. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Toby.
That's it. He just wanted to call, make sure.
Right,
that,
there you
okay.
go.
We'll pass it on. Do you have your
Wallace, welcome to the show. Hey, Wallace. All right, let's go to Jeffrey on the West Bank. Hey, Jeffrey.
Thank you. Two things. One, that shirt with Kareem on, man, that's classic, man. That's classic. That's classic. Two, I always wanted to know who's in Tampa Bay Buccaneers office or front office or administrator that has an affinity for these LSU linebackers and defensive players.
I don't know, but I wish he'd leave.
Yeah.
I wish he'd get fired. Bruce Arians will turn that program around. I don't think there's any. I think the biggest fear for people that listen or watch the NFC South is that this guy's going to come in because they have talent and he's going to turn it around. Guys, let's shift gears. Let's talk some Pels. David Griffin, Vice President of Basketball Operations. Gail Benson, I thought hit it out the park. It shocked me. I didn't think they'd go for the best guy on the board. I didn't think they'd pay what he wanted. I didn't think they'd give him full control. Your thoughts on David Griffin?
Like you said, this is the best possible outcome. It may not be the best person. I think we all had different opinions.
Sure.
And I was really looking at Trajan Langdon in that position. But once she decided that it was going to be an executive vice president and a general manager, I think that significantly changed the decision-making process. So to bring in a guy like Griffin, and you see that he's already talking about bringing in one of his former staffers with the Cavs, who's now currently the number 3 guy with the Clippers.
Yes.
You start rounding out that front office. This, as Les East, and I give Les all the credit because he was the first one who said this to me, this is like a Jim Finks moment for the Saints.
It is, there's no doubt.
You now have credibility, and that's what a franchise needs first and foremost. For 25 years, the Saints had no credibility. Then they got a guy who had skins on the wall. David Griffin has skins on the wall. 17 years of success with the Suns. They didn't miss the playoffs a single season he was in Phoenix. Then you go to Cleveland and you win a championship there. And then the little things, scouting, he's been involved with that. Phoenix was known for having the best medical staff in the NBA when he was there. And we know how important that is with the Pelicans when you're talking about a team that had 117 lineups in its last 328 games. That's incredible.
It's crazy.
So you need health. So I think when you've gotten a guy who's done it from top to bottom and then is committed as a no-nonsense. This is what we are. This is our vision. I have one. Everybody's going to get in line with it, but I'm also encouraging an environment of debate within here. That's what people have been asking for. That's what we've been asking for. And then for Gail Benson, this is the most significant move she's made as an owner. This makes her as powerful as any owner in sports. And now she has somebody in the building who is her person. Mickey Loomis, Dennis Lauscher, Sean Payton, those are all Tom's people. I'm sure they will still continue to be trusted aides, but this is her guy, and that means something. So I think that for her, this is a huge moment, but for the Pelicans franchise, this will go down as, this is really the beginning.
Oh, there's no doubt.
They were on cruise control for a decade under Tom Benson, for better or for worse, but now this is the beginning of the real beginning of this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, everything he just said, and I'll add just 2 things to that. Everything that us that cover the team, because we're fans, we love hoops, man. And what normal fans have been saying is somebody just to give a bleep. And this guy does. He eats, breathes, sleeps basketball. He mentioned he was the videographer for Danny Ainge. He did video for him, and cut film. I mean, so he's been through all
He started at the bottom and worked his way up.
Exactly. So this is what we've been screaming on your show, you've written about it. You need somebody that knows the ins and outs of the NBA, how it's run, how it's handled, how these players act, how the agents work, everything. And then you add the small market element to it, in which he said it should mean more. It matters more. You should want to win there. I mean, it's essentially, it's AD. It's Benson. When he said it, I'm thinking, well, there you go, AD. He didn't get that, because that's what he's saying. You should want to win here. So from just starting out talking about uptown New Orleans and the restaurants and all of that, to saying, I get y'all. It's different in a small market. I understand wholeheartedly, and you should want to do it, and I get it. You all of a sudden got people on board, to believe and trust in them. And that's, to me, the number one thing that you need. He talked about changing the perception, because it went from if you hire somebody else, like the Lakers trade, that guy's going to call for Anthony Davis, after the lottery, and probably holding his hand over the phone, chuckling, going, shut up, check this out. How about ball and some shoes? What can you go for? Laughing, whereas the first phone call now to David Griffin is serious.
Yes.
Because they know he's going to,
He's not Del Demps.
Right.
He's not Del Demps, no doubt. AD still with this team next year?
I don't think so. I mean, he had to do this. This is what Griffin had to do. You go out publicly.
Absolutely.
You have a top 5 player. You court him.
Right.
Because everybody's watching. Other agents
And
are watching.
ante it
Other
up
players
also.
are watching. And you increase that value that
Bingo.
we're willing to keep him. We can hold on to him as long as we want. And if he's, if they want to hold him all the way till the till the trade deadline next year, you keep teams competing because there is no rush today. Like I said, got the lottery, got the draft. All those things will put dominoes in place. And at the end of this, Anthony Davis comes off, he cannot save his image unless he says, I'll come back and I want to stay. That's the only way he can fix this.
And even then, he's got some fences to
Oh, it's definitely. But he would have to commit. If he comes back, like Griffin said, it's all in or all out. He'd have to sign that long-term extension
Exactly.
if he wants to stay in here.
Yeah.
But I think the bridges have been burned. I think the shift of turning the team over to Drew Holiday is an extremely important thing. And if you brought Anthony Davis back, how do you fix that dynamic again? Because AD's going to walk in the locker room and say, I'm the guy still.
Right.
Did he get the jersey back from him that he gave him? I still can't believe that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
To do it during the press conference.
Yeah, look, I think what's exciting is the excitement and hope. Like, there's legit, honest to goodness, basketball sense and savvy hope. You can look at it and point, well, they can do this, they can do that, they can do that, they can go in this direction, they can go in that direction. I love it. He changed the balance of power by making that statement.
He did.
Of course you don't want him back, but you have to say that because now some teams go, wait, well, what if he does come back? Did you call him yet? David, go call David Griffin, please, and tell him we're interested. Because it does. It puts the balance of power on it. And guys, Rachel Nichols, Richard Jefferson, and Amir Hassan, they were giddy when they interviewed him on the jump. They love him. So you've changed the perception nationally. The people that write about you like you. So it's going to be positive. The people you work with respect you, including Clutch and LeBron. And then you set the tone.
He's already done more public interviews than Dale did.
Well, you changed their public image in 1 week.
In 1 week.
More than they've had in 10 years.
Right.
It's
And
incredible.
Look, unlike Dell, and we've all talked about this, he's got to be a salesman. You got to get in the community and sell the Pelicans now and sell the new vision of the Pelicans. And again, I think it was a home run call for Gail Benson. It shocked me. I got to be honest with you. I thought she was going to go with one of the up-and-coming general managers.
I
thought he was out, or I thought it was Ferry, and I was, again, upset with the thought that you were just going to retain this guy that was part of Dell Demps. They were trying to change the narrative here. No, they went for the home run here.
And real quickly, don't think that it's by coincidence that you hear him constantly saying, I made outrageous demands and they're giving it to me.
Right.
That's telling everybody else we're not doing it on the cheap. Don't think that doesn't matter because
And
to
we're
his
not
point,
connected to the Saints.
To his point,
Right.
you want to hire staff, you want to hire scouts, you want people to move from wherever they are to New Orleans. They need to know that you're going to take care of them.
No doubt.
And that's what he's doing.
Gus Kattengell, David Grubb, thanks so much for being with us on Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE at 10 p.m. Also, statewide, Pelican Sports Television, 9 p.m. every Friday night. You can catch me on the radio, Sports 1280, 101.1 FM HD2 on the iHeartRadio app. That is noon to 2 weekdays. You can listen live, download the podcast at ericasher.com. All the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports can also be seen at ericasher.com as well. Special thanks to our guest tonight, Gus Kattengell, ESPN 100.3. Also, David Grubb at CrestlySports.com. Also, the WLE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, Naila Jones, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Eric Asher. See you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.